Hey everyone! So recently we've released the BO4 Relaxed in the 13-ounce Indigo Eco Selvage, which is our most sustainable fabric to date. Since there's a lot of interesting facts about this fabric and a lot of technical information as well, we're going to jump on a call with Simon from Candiani, who can explain you everything you need to know about this fabric. Hey Simon.
Hey Len, how's it going?
It's good, great. Good to see you. How's everything
Good to
been?
see you too. Yeah, all good. Thanks. I'm pretty
Great.
excited to be here talking about your latest gene.
Yeah, exactly. So, we have recently released another fit in our most sustainable fabric, the 13-ounce Indigo Eco Selvage. I have it here.
There
And
we go.
since there's a little bit of technical information about this fabric, it has recycled cotton. It has something called blue seed cotton. I was just wondering if you, as you are part of Candiani, can explain us a little bit more about these two things.
Sure, with pleasure. Well, actually, that gene is made with a pretty particular fabric because when it comes to more responsible choices in fabrics, speaking of sustainability, there's many things that you can tap into. You can start with the cotton, which can be a preferred cotton, can be organic, it can be BCI, it can be regenerative recycled.
BCI
And
stands for?
for Better Cotton Initiative, basically. It's a different system. It doesn't really relate to the so much to the type of cotton and how you grow it, to the methodology, how you grow it, but more to a system. So basically, they have a focus on bettering the supply chain. So they make sure that the workers have fair wages. There is no child labor. They do water management, chemical management to farmers. So basically, they're trying to help actually the whole chain to get better. But when it comes to organic regenerative, it's about farming methodologies, like how you grow the cotton. So we will discuss this in a little bit. But you can also use different dyeing technologies. There's many things that can make a fabric and a jean sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And one of those things which is not mentioned very often is also the proximity where it's produced. So if it's produced like in a long and far supply chain or in a near supply chain. So in this case, we're talking about a brand from Amsterdam that produces the fabric in Italy and the garment in Portugal. And so that makes it a short supply chain, for example.
It's all within Europe.
It's all within Europe. And another thing that not many know is that obviously in Europe, you have different legislations that are enforcing the respect for certain regulations and restrictions that in other countries you need certification for that. And here it's the European Commission that's basically regulating that already. But now let's talk about this fabric. Okay, what's special about it? We talked about recycled fibers. There is a very important part of that fabric that deals with recycled fibers. And when we talk about recycled, there is two types of recycled we can talk about. We can talk about post-industrial recycled or post-consumer recycled. What does that mean? So post-industrial means that in Candiani, we spin, we dye, we weave, and we finish the fabric. And obviously we have a waste of fibers throughout this process. Okay, we're talking about fibers that are not long enough or not good enough or that they fall off during the process. So we collect those fibers and we recycle them. So that is post-industrial waste. And this is something we've always practiced because it's called in other terms industrial efficiency. Sort of like you don't throw away anything that's still good to be used. That cotton basically has not been used through the process because it wasn't good enough,
Okay.
right? But it's still okay to respin it mixed with some better cotton in order to save it, all right? Not to throw it away.
But it hasn't been used to make fabrics yet.
Well, and now with this post-industrial, we do fabrics, but this is something we've always been practicing because like we don't waste anything. We recycle 100% of our waste. But post-consumer recycled cotton, that's something more tricky because that means that this jacket, for example, at the end of its life, okay, when it's been worn, reworn, and then it's like ready to be thrown out. Obviously, the fibers are very weak because in the first place, probably this fabric underwent a wash process, then it's been worn for years and years. So the wear and tear obviously weakens the fiber. So when I recycle that, so when I try to take out of this jacket the fibers that are still good to work with, I can't recycle 100% of those fibers because some are really not workable, right?
Yeah.
So I can take what's good out of it, mix it with fresh cotton, okay, and then make a new fabric out of that.
So it's very important to blend the recycled part with new cotton. That's how it gets its strength, right?
Exactly. This is how you balance out weakness and strength to have the quality that is required to have a durable new jean. Otherwise, you would compromise the quality and the resistance. So what happens is that usually with post-consumer recycled fibers, they're so weak that you can just have a very slow percentage of them in the new garment. So we're talking about 5, 6 to maximum 10% of recycled fibers. Even if the story is very beautiful because you say we're making a new jean out of an old jean, many times, that's a little bit, a nice story, but not so real because the percentage is so low. So we said there's a couple of things around recycled that we want to solve. Okay, first of all, we want to have a higher percentage of post-consumer recycled in the garment. And second, we want to deal with the proximity. Because what happens very often is when you do post-consumer recycled, you would have, let's say, a brand, just as an example, from Amsterdam that says, oh, we want to do post-consumer recycled. So we gather all the old garments from our stores, okay? We send them to Spain to shred them into fiber and spin them into yarn. From there, they send it to Pakistan to turn it into fabric. And from there, they manufacture it somewhere, maybe in Turkey, and then they ship it back to Amsterdam. So they have 10% of post-consumer recycled fiber in it, but they have a carbon footprint for the long supply chain that doesn't really make it worth anymore, right? So we said we have to find a solution for both. And how do we do that? First of all, when we talk about the higher percentage, okay, we want to use more recycled fibers in our blend. So we said we need to compensate this weak fiber with an extra long and strong fiber, not the conventional cotton fiber, right? So if we have a longer and stronger fiber, we can use more of the recycled fibers.
Makes sense.
But, right? So what we did is we created our own cotton fiber. That's pretty out of the box. So this is not a very conventional proceeding in a mill, but we came up with this, which we called blue seed. Okay, so we didn't invent the blue seed. Okay, how does it work with seeds? There are a few seed banks throughout the world. Okay, and we worked with Gowan Seed Company. It's a US company, and they have a huge variety of seeds. And this guy here was actually a variety they wanted to discard. And so we said, hey, what's wrong with that guy? And they said, well, nothing's wrong, but nobody's really using it. So what are the properties of this guy? So this is a not genetically modified seed, okay? And it is the son of two natural seeds, okay, that have been cross-pollinated. And what happens in nature when you do that, you have this special reaction where the result is stronger than the parents, okay? In nature, we call it 1 + 1 = 3, okay? It's called heterosis or hybrid vigor. And so basically, this is a longer fiber. So it has the best quality, the best of the extra long staple fibers, and also the best aspects of the upland cotton, which is the resistance. So we have an extra long staple fiber with extra resistance. And on top, this seed has been conceived to be grown and harvested in very dry areas. So it requires very little water, and it's more resistant to an uncomfortable environment, let's say. So we said, okay, we want to have the exclusive of this seed. And we branded it the Candiani blue seed. Now that we have the seed, we need to grow it. And we found a partner. Okay, we have several partners. We have one in the US. That's where we started the whole experiment. which then we scaled up on an industrial level, and we're running on an industrial level now. We have a partner in Brazil, and now we're starting to do it in Europe as well, in Spain, which is going to be the next cool thing to do together, because that is going to shorten the whole supply chain even further. Okay. So, but now we started with Bowles Farm, bee farm in California. So they're very progressive in innovation and R&D that they're doing. So basically, they grew the blue seed for us using organic growing methodologies. Okay, so we have an organic blue seed cotton that we mix together with the post-consumer recycled fibers. And this allows us, along the yarn, instead of using at 10% of recycled fibers, to use up to 70% of recycled fibers. Okay. And when we put that yarn together with the warp, on the overall fabric, we're getting up to 25, 26% of recycled cotton, which is very high when we talk about PCR content.
It is very, very high. And just to make things clear, the recycled part is entirely be found in the weft, correct?
That's correct. There is a certain limitation, as cotton, as we know it conventionally, is white. I mean, there's obviously different white shades, but like when we dye a specific color, we need to have a white canvas in order to have consistency in the dyeing. Once we do a recycled yarn, it won't be white. It will be blue grayish, because obviously this jacket is not white. So if I recycle that and I mix it with white cotton, what comes out is this blue grayish kind of color. And if I would over dye that with indigo, at that point I would have an inconsistent blue. This is why we're using the recycled cotton only in the weft and not in the dyed warp.
So that's why we have quickly showed in the camera. So the weft.
Exactly. The weft of this jean. Right. So if you cuff it, if you turn around the leg, you will see that inside the weft is not white, but it's blue grayish. And this is because it has the post-consumer recycled content inside.
Exactly. And what about the warp? Can you tell us something about the warp of the fabric?
Yeah. So basically, the rest of this jean is made with always with organic cotton. So the composition of that fabric is post-consumer recycled cotton and organic cotton. And in the weft, we used a particular yarn, which is called, it has a code number, which is the 72 warp. Yeah. And it's very special. Why? Because actually it has been designed by Alberto Candiani's father, Gianluigi Candiani, and we're talking about over 30 years ago. And it has a very particular ring character. So it means that, as you know already, like the yarns in denim, they're not even, they're not straight, but they have irregularities, right? These irregularities were originally given by the ring spinning frame, because where the yarn comes out, it pokes the yarn every once in a while. And so it gives it this irregularity. But then we learned how to control these irregularities and to create slubs. And slubs are thickenings along the yarn. So we can now decide how to thicken, how much, for how long, and how much distance to leave between one slub and another. And that design characterizes 100% of the aesthetics of the jean. Also because being a 3x1 construction where you have the warp prevailing on the front of the fabric and the weft prevailing in the back, the warp design will actually decide the aesthetic of the jean, right? So in this case, we're talking about the 72 warp, which has this very authentic ring character, and it's actually the most successful warp we've ever made in Candiani. And so we use it, especially on this fabric, because it's so rich in sustainable content. So we have aesthetics and ethics, both concentrated like in this fabric on a pretty high level.
Yeah, but I know the 72 warp yarn for a long time already as well. I've been using it in different versions, but now, I mean, it's great to be able to use it in a very sustainable variant as well. So that's it's great. It's great to hear, of course, always about these new developments and everything that you guys do and come up with. And yeah, so it has been great learning about this. I think everyone watching this video has also learned a lot. I'm also always learning every time we speak, so we should do this much more often.
With pleasure. I hope it's been helpful, and
of course,
I know you're a nerd, so you understand what I'm saying. I hope everyone else who's following us is understand. Yeah, I hope it made sense. Okay.
Well, you have some great written pieces on the Candiani website, especially about the blue seed as well. So we are going to put links to all the info that you already have online in the description of the video, so people can learn more about it if they want to know. Yeah, well, let's do this more often, and maybe next time with a beer when we meet.
All right.
Real life.
Looking forward to do
Been a
that.
while.
Okay. And guys, have a nice weekend.
You too.
You too, Ed.
Yeah, thank you. Ciao.
Take care. Ciao.